But I think the most important thing to get out of my 17 years before I went in the Marine Corps is that I was a disaster and a train wreck.
One phone call from a recruiter and a 17-year-old with every reason to fail found the Marine Corps.
Because it's very, very rewarding. I'm happy that I did it. I'm glad that I did it. My life is better because of it, despite the scar tissue and the trauma that comes along with it.
4 combat tours, Iraq, Afghanistan. Drill instructor, Amtraker, the one who breaks them down and builds Marines.
Be calm. Be as calm as you can on the radio. Be as calm as you can when you're addressing people.
He came home with scar tissue and a broken back, and not one regret. SgtMaj Marc Chabot, in his own words. This is Voice for Valor.
Welcome to Voice for Valor. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. I think you might be the first Marine I've actually interviewed.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just get it started right off the bat, since we've already had our warm-up conversation amongst us off channel. But you said that you needed the Marine Corps more than the Marine Corps ever needed you. That is a powerful place to begin. When you look back at that 17-year-old kid from North Attleboro, what did the Corps see in you before you could see in yourself?
Nothing. It didn't see nothing in me. Because I don't want to dive in all the details, because we're trying to, create, something, for people to motivate people. But I think the most important thing to get out of my 17 years before I went in the Marine Corps is that I was a disaster and a train wreck. Any type of negative thing you could think of, I was exposed to as a kid, whether it was my parents, getting divorced, alcohol abuse, drug use, humiliation, just very, very toxic, extremely toxic. I think that's kind of the highlight of it. But the reason why I want to tell people that and tell you that, Mike, is because it's not how you start, it's how you grow. Right. So I could have been that guy, at 17 saying, look, this is just what my life is. Whole bunch of trauma, whole bunch of drama, just nothing good going on here. Let me just kick cans down the street of suburban Massachusetts and, and just not go out there and, and stake my own claim in the world. So very, very grateful that a friend of mine tapped me on the shoulder one day in high school and said, I was smart enough to at least stay in high school, right? He tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, I talked to the Marine recruiter. I'm going to join. He's like, and I gave him your number. And I looked at him. I was like, why the hell did you do that? Don't give nobody out my number.
Because he's getting a bonus.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Hey, you trying to get that contract private first class. I get it now. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. So my recruiter called me in the afternoon. He was amazing. His name was Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Lanzikos. Fast forward about 21 years, he actually came to my promotion to Sergeant Major at Camp Geiger, North Carolina, which was amazing. He had a huge impact on me. And no bullshit, Mike. He just called me on the phone. He's like, hey, Mark, Chris said you wanted to join the Marine Corps. Don't waste my time. I'm like, well, you called me. He's like, do you want to join the Marine Corps or not? And I was like, yeah, can you come by and meet my mom so she's cool with it because I'm only 17? He's like, I'll be there tonight. And just everything kind of gelled out from there.
So for the folks that are listening that don't speak jarhead, explain the rank structure, the enlisted rank structure of the Marines. So for instance, in the Air Force, it's airman, and then it goes to senior airman, then it goes to staff sergeant and up. What are those ranks that you just described?
Sure. Like slick sleeve privates in E1, private first class, is E2, lance corporals in E3, a corporals in E4, a sergeant's in E5, and then a staff sergeant is E6, a gunnery sergeant is E7. And then once you're in E7, you make a decision. At least you can influence your decision whether you want to be a subject matter expert in your job field or whether you would like to go pursue leadership and advisement as a first sergeant. So you can either go master sergeant as a SME, or you can go first sergeant as a command guy. And then after that, it's master gunnery sergeant if you're a SME. And if you're command leadership side, you would be a sergeant major. E9. Yeah, I think about that kid, just my upbringing and stuff, to be a retired E9 and just that, less than probably 0.1% of our nation could say that. I'm really proud of that. It was friggin' hard, and I'm sure we'll get into it. It was not easy. Being in the Marine Corps for that long is not for the weak.
Boy, you beat me to it right there. The Marines, it's fine. It's such a different community compared to my time in the Air Force. So as a C-17 pilot, I was flying into Cherry Point, and I pull up to get fuel, and this captain walks on board, and he says, "How much gas do you need?" "Oh, 100,000 pounds," or whatever that number was. And I said, "Wait a second, you have pilot wing on your uniform. What are you doing pumping gas?" He said, "Oh, this is my additional duty." I said, I can't imagine the Air Force that on the days that you're not flying, you're out there working, fuel maintenance and management and all that stuff. But what's the saying in the Corps? Every soldier's a rifleman, or what's the term you guys use?
Yeah, every Marine a rifleman. So that means anybody at any time can be called, to grab a rifle and go out there, and pull the trigger and inflict punishment on anybody. The command in general, all the way down to your lowest enlisted Marine. I've seen generals fill sandbags in Iraq before. It was like a standing policy that everybody had to fill 2 sandbags before you could eat evening chow. I saw our MAGTF commander filling 2 sandbags before he ate chow.
Meeting his quota to eat that chow. Wow, that's
he
impressive.
didn't have to do it. He could be like, "I'm the general. I don't got to do it." But that's our culture. Our culture is very much like nobody is too good to do anything in the Marine Corps. Everybody takes out their own trash. You clean your own shit. That's just how we roll.
Yeah, that culture, the Air Force, they joke around, they call us the chair force, or you name your one off. But I think that we're more like a Fortune 500 company. We've got these really smart technical experts that are respected and recognized because of that expertise. Whereas in the Marine Corps, it's the rank structure, it's officer, it's enlisted, it's very separate. And it's so different and interesting at the same time, because like you said, to make E9 in the Marine Corps, you are going through some suck. So how did that 17-year-old kid look back at that and say, my goodness, where was I going if my mom didn't say yes for me to join the Marines?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know, because I could always make the argument that I probably would have been decent if I wasn't in the Marine Corps, because I proved in the Marine Corps that I could do a lot of things, that I could have a lot of success. I could be compliant, I could have discipline to do the things that you needed to do. So that was great. I probably would have done blue collar work more than likely. My stepfather owned his own HVAC business. I planned on getting out the Marine Corps after 4 years and going to do that. And I'm glad that I didn't, because that business is now, he doesn't do it anymore, and it's not even in business anymore. And then I almost got out at 8 years because I was working on a prototype vehicle called the AAAV, and General Dynamics was our prime, and they were trying to get us as Marines, we're the guys, out there with developmental test operators, like, "Hey, you should come work for us. You'll make twice the money you do as an active duty sergeant or staff sergeant." I'm like, "Oh, you're right. That sounds good." And then, what happens? You get the great master sergeant that's in your section who puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "Staff Sergeant Chabot, let's go over here and have a conversation. Let's talk about the things that they're not telling you. Let's talk about it." And man, I'm glad that he took the time to have that conversation with me and have me stay, because it was very, very rewarding. I'm happy that I did it. I'm glad that I did it. My life is better because of it, despite the scar tissue and the trauma that comes along with it, and my back and my shoulders being messed up, and dome only being right half the time. I still don't regret it at all.
I'm the same way. I'm broken, bad shoulder, bad knee, bad back, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. That culture, once again, you develop relationships that last forever. If you would have gone and worked for that defense contractor, sure, it's a great job, and you're getting paid for what you're actually worth. But at the same time, in this purpose-driven life that I think we're all led in the military, there's a brotherhood there that you just can't replace with money.
No, camaraderie cannot be duplicated anyway. Numerous Fortune 500 companies come to the Marine Corps, go to any services, and they ask them about culture and their techniques, like their strategies, the leadership philosophy, and they all write it down. They can even get it off the internet. It's nothing secret. It's all nipper stuff, and you can download it, and they try to instill it in these companies, and it doesn't work, right? Like it only works if you just believe in it, and you get brought up, in it, as yourself being an officer, a guy, from a second lieutenant all the way to the time of your lieutenant colonel, and the guy who's a private all the way to E9. Like, that's what as an adult. That's what you do during your adult life. And you can't just take it and plug and play it in a company where there's all different people of different experiences, different ages and stuff. It just does not work. You have to go through the suck, to your point, Mike. You got to go through it.
There's the closest similarity I can think is sports. In high school, you see the kids doing 2-a-days as they're getting ready for football in the summer. So you're thinking, here you are, you're sacrificing, 2 or 3 weeks of your summer to go through these 2-a-days, and you're just getting crushed, with the whole point of, breaking those guys down so that they build together as a team. Can you talk us through what it was like going through basic training? I don't know if you're at Parris Island or where you went through, but what was that breaking down process like for you?
Yeah, I had the luxury of doing both, right? So I was a recruit, obviously, in graduated recruit training, but then I was also a drill instructor a number of years later at San Diego. So I was a recruit at Parris Island, drill instructor at San Diego, and went through the process twice. I think that's the most butterflies and unnerving feeling I've ever had in my life, was getting on a plane from MEPS, Boston, Massachusetts, and flying down to it was Columbia, South Carolina. The two corporals there in uniform pick you up. They yell at you the whole time, tell you to get on the bus, keep your head down the whole way, and you drive to Parris Island. And when you get there, just everything is so structured and by the numbers. You get 30 minutes of free time in the evening, but everything else is just, you're up at a certain time. Somebody's up your ass making sure you're doing stuff the right way. The drill instructors spend every second of every day with you, and they are not just, guiding you and training you. They're also holding you accountable. You're getting smoked on the quarter deck for making mistakes. Your rack mate becomes like your best friend. I still talk to my bunk mate from Parris Island. Really good dude from the Bronx, New York. His last name's Castro. Really good dude. Shout out to you. And just they indeed bring you there, and they break you down, to like get all those civilian, isms out of you at 17, 18, 19 years old, all those bad habits. And they just slowly start building you up from there. And when you're a platoon, right? I just want you to understand in your head that when you're in a platoon with 80 other dudes, you can't do anything right together when you first get there. You can't march correctly. You can't get in step. You don't understand like how to help each other at that point, right? You're just like self-preservation. You're like, shit, I'm just trying to make it through today, and that's it, and worry about myself. And you just can't help it. Like, that process just continues to build and build and build. And after a couple days, a couple weeks, you start working as a team. You start developing those relationships, and then all of a sudden you start doing a lot of things right. You get a little stronger. It's an incredible process to actually go through. I had tears in my eyes when I graduated from Parris Island. I told myself right there, and you're going to be like, yeah, right, Mike. You're going to be like, sure, Mark. I told myself, I said, I want to be a Marine Corps drill instructor someday. And damn it, fast forward 11 and a half years later, I was Gunnery Sergeant Chabot at MCRD San Diego, actually seeing the other side of the coin of recruit training, me being the guy who is breaking them down, building them up, training them, investing in them, watching them be an absolute fucking nightmare shit show the first few days. And then to see them on graduation day, and just, you're so proud of all these dudes, man, out there. And you're like, man, I remember when you just couldn't even hygiene correctly. Now you're out here with a uniform on, you smell good, you look good. Your mom came and told me that, that this is the best she's ever seen you in your life. It is so effing rewarding, brother.
So your time when you were in basic training, was there a moment during that training when you realized these guys and gals that are screaming at me and breaking me down, they actually love me and want the best for me? Did you ever have an experience like that? Or did you not find that out until after you were an instructor and you came back?
Probably afterwards, right? Because, I mean, the day they turn the lights off, the last day, like, half you shouldn't even be graduating day, you suck. It's very much like a mental. So as much as physical as recruit training can be, and it's more physical for some guys compared to others, depending on what kind of shape they're in, it's the mental aspect that gets you. Not everybody makes it through there. We got a wash rate of sometimes between 12 and 20%. So think about that. That's a lot of dudes that, find reasons. I say dudes because it was all guys when I went through when I was a DI. Now there's integrated platoons and things, but there's it's definitely that building block, and just you feel like you feel so like you accomplish so much in such a short period of time, right? Like you get to tell, like, I'm a Marine. Less than 2% of the population can say that. It's a hell of a feeling, man.
When you were an instructor, was there ever a time where you grabbed a cadet or a trainee to the side and said, "Look, man, you're going to make it through. Just keep going"? Did you ever have those times, or did you always had that game face on, like you're always there to scare them and keep them in line?
No, I mean, on drill instructor duty, you have different billets. So the senior drill instructor, and this is contrary to what you saw in like Full Metal Jacket with R. Lee Ermey, where he was the senior drill instructor and he terrorized them the whole time. The actual reality of recruit training is that senior drill instructor is like the father figure of the platoon. So he's the one that does most of those inspirational things, a lot of, the messaging, building confidence in them, those one-on-ones. He mostly does that. Don't get me wrong, as a green belt drill instructor, it's not illegal to do that per se, but you're more focused on the day-to-day trainings. You're more focused, on the accountability, the discipline, the drill, the PT formations. Your job is to keep on driving the platoon and keeping them going and holding them accountable. And the senior drill instructor comes in, when he sees them starting to get, stressed, overly stressed, then he'll come in and kind of lighten it up for them a little bit. And then we'll put them through the ringer again, stress them again. And then the senior drill instructor come in and kind of lighten it up a little bit. Because if you pressurize them the whole time, that's really, really bad. That's when things that you read about, online and, in the newspapers, when recruits get hurt, they get injured, weird complaints get filed, investigations happen because you're just absolutely just pressurizing them so much. One of the platoons at Parris Island pressurized this recruit so much that he jumped off the third deck and succumbed, to his injuries. So that's something that we never want to see happen with anybody, because those folks out there that you're training, that you have the privilege of training, their sons and their daughters, to people out there, they're entrusting the Marine Corps and you with their life and making sure that they get a fair deal.
Mine's a little different. I went to officer training school, which means that I already had my 4-year degree before I went off to training. And mine was an absolute pressure cooker. It's changed quite a bit since then. But when I first showed up, we had 4 minutes for breakfast, 5 minutes for lunch, and I think it was 6 or 7 minutes for dinner. So
yeah,
I walked in as a very strong, healthy guy walking in there. I weighed 192 pounds when I showed up as a 5'10" guy. And I was already, running 6-minute miles. So this is not like I had weight to lose. In those first 2 weeks, I lost 20 pounds. I weighed 172 pounds after 2 weeks because of the fact that I didn't have the option to fuel my body like I was used to. And the amount of running and the physical fitness, like you were describing, it was just so foreign to what I was used to, right? I was used to going to the gym and lifting the heavy weights and running on my own. But that level of stress and not being able to fuel my body, the weight just came off. My mom, when she came to graduation, she was absolutely shocked. I mean, my waist wasn't big to begin with. It was 33 inches. It was like 29 by the time I graduated because of how hard that was. But they have since changed it. They changed a lot of those food rules once they realized you can't be this hard on these people and not allow them to eat. So thankfully they've changed some of those things. But during your time as you're starting off as an E1 and you're going through that E9 path, that career path, who was the first leader who refused to let you quit on yourself?
Yeah, I had a leader named when I was a corporal named his name was Staff Sergeant Roger Keith. Before that, I was in a platoon, and just I didn't tell you, but my MOS, my job was an amphibious tractor vehicle crewman. So picture tanks that go in the water, right? Ground combat. You plugged into a Marine division. Your sole mission in life is to take the infantry to the fight, support them through fire maneuver, When you're not doing that, you put logistics in the back of the vehicle, just like you do a C-17. You take them where they're needed, right? My first experience in my first platoon was really awful. Had some pretty abusive leaders, toxic, weren't very invested in like us and like our growth and development, very much just like more interested in doing anything but that. Like go to the chief's mess and play cards, go screw off, go to the smoke deck, and not really pouring into us. Staff Sergeant Roger Keith is the first guy that ever sat me down, held me accountable to things that I needed to do, taught me the things I needed to know. And he's like, hey, I want to see you, do better than you're doing now. He said, you think you're really good right now, but I'm going to make you even better. And he did. I still talk to that man today. He's a fantastic human being. And he kind of showed me a different side of leadership that I wasn't accustomed to seeing. I was more used to seeing very authoritative leaders, very much people like, oh, you're just a boot, you're just friggin' junior, get out my face, figure it the F out and all that stuff. He was not that way at all. He was amazing. And I modeled a lot of my leadership, after him. And I did have some other people along the way that were very similar to him, different, everybody's a little different. We have a different way of relaying the message. But they were very impactful as well. Gunnery Sergeant William Parrish was an amazing mentor that I had. Sergeant Major Justin LeHue. These guys were just animals, but in a good way.
Your bio and your podcast, it talks about these Amtrackers and pigs. Share with our listeners what the heck an Amtracker is, and what do you mean by pigs?
Yeah, pigs is just what we call the vehicle itself. That vehicle that I was on, called the amphibious assault vehicle, the P7 variant, which is the personnel variant, has been retired officially. So they have no more missions. Now they do still have them at the independent stations in case of humanitarian reasons, but they are no longer used in the fleet and no longer used for training anymore. So it's been retired. So it makes me feel extra old now. It does. But really, like I said earlier, your job is it's a very, very hard job. You're not just a driver. You're also a maintainer at first echelon maintenance, like a lot of PMs. Like for you being a C-17 guy, picture your junior crew chief or whatever, all the repetitive preventive maintenance that has to get done on that aircraft. We got to do the same thing on Amtraks. You're also a part-time machine gunner. You got to learn how to shoot machine guns. You got to learn how to bore sight turrets. You got to understand, the function of that. How does your vehicle and your weapon system plug into the larger plan on what the infantry's got going on? And you partner with the infantry, and it's a very, very important job. One that, man, I'm so glad that I had that, because I got to do a lot of different things. Like I said, I got to be a machine gunner. I got to be an operator. I got to take care of, Marines. I got to lead my crew. It's very dangerous, though. We've lost a lot of guys in Amtrak accidents and things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, just picture 26 tons. It looks like a tank that actually drives off the back of a ship, splashes into the ocean, goes underwater a little bit, and then comes back up. And then you go 4,000 meters. And think about the elements that are out there. I've been in 8-foot seas before.
Oh, wow.
Dude, brother, people are handing me up, Kevlar helmets full of vomit and stuff, saying, oh, God, it smells down here. I've had guys try to break open the hatches and stuff because they're so nervous under there. You got to smack them with a Maddox handle. I wouldn't trade it for nothing, though. It was an amazing time. It's challenging. It was very, very rewarding. But the culture of it was definitely something. Like, we have a very prideful culture in our community. We call it the Yat community. You ain't tracks, you ain't shit community.
I remember those commercials as a kid showing that amphibious vehicle going through the water. And so I remember that, because I don't know how old you are, but I'm 50 years old. So I remember those commercials as a kid, but I never once thought about being a Marine. But I did love your guys' uniforms. I love the commercials. You guys have it locked down on that perspective. But at the same time, 4 overseas tours, right? Iraq and Afghanistan, 4 times.
Four combat tours, yes. Yeah.
4 combat tours. So for our listeners, tell us what that's like versus, being home station, those 4 tours.
Yeah, I felt good about it and I felt prepared about it. I mean, besides the political aspects of it, which we don't have to touch on, because I'll go off on a rabbit hole and a tangent, because some things became clearer later on a few years down the road. Maybe some lies were told in there and just some fabrication going on. And that's wrong. I'll just leave it at that. It's wrong.
Don't worry. People call me a bleeding
wrong.
liberal. And I'm like, I'm not a bleeding liberal. I actually am somebody that reads. And the more you read, the more you realize that there's a lot of things that were going on that we weren't necessarily privy to.
You're taking sons and daughters and putting them in harm's way. It better be for a real effing good reason and not some bullshit fabrication or, what the optics of it or what it looks like. A lot of people lost their lives and a lot of people lost limbs in these wars. So anyway, if I was the guy in charge, maybe things would have went different. When you're an Amtraker and when you're in a Marine division, you train. I mean, you train a lot. The same way that, you're behind the sticks and you're flying your aircraft, you got to do so many hours per month, in order to keep your quals up, all those things. Same thing. There is no like idle and sitting around in a Marine division. You are going on the gas. You're in the field. If you're not in the field, you're doing maintenance. If you're not doing maintenance, you're doing training. If you're not doing training, you're lucky enough to maybe get down to Myrtle Beach for the weekend and have some fun. I mean, so I felt really very well prepared to go into that environment and, and be successful with my platoon. The only shitty part is the enemy always gets a vote, as you know. They just do. And sometimes that deal does not go very well. So, my first deployment, it was very, very kinetic. We lost a lot of guys, unfortunately. It was tough. Like me and my section, we did good. I told you a little bit about kind of the leader that I was. I wasn't like abusive, but I was very much like demanding in a manner of, you will know what it is you're supposed to know. And you will know your job before we cross that breach into Kuwait and we go in Iraq. You're going to know. You are going to be well prepared. So they used to come and bitch to me. Like we sat in Kuwait for 6 weeks before President Bush said, yep, go. They're watching all these other dudes, play cards and stuff, having friggin' coffee, shooting the shit, yucking it up, waiting in line, to try to use the Iridium phone, the one Iridium phone for like 1,000 people and stuff. My guys, hell no. Like, get over here. We are training. And they didn't like it. But then fast forward 7 months later when, we were going home, to C-17s, flying guys out and getting back on ships. They were like, thank you. They said, thank you. So like being hard on them and not giving them what they want, and not bending the knee, to what other people are doing, but doing what in your heart is right is very, very important. But doing all those, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
How do we explain to the folks that haven't served the fact that just because you went through some pretty crappy environments, that builds a bond and a sense of purpose that you can't measure by going to work for some Fortune 500 company. Some of my best relationships are the assignments themselves that I hated the most. And so when you're all dealing with this thing and embracing the suck, man, the brotherhood just grows. How do we let our youth know, my goodness, do we go to some pretty shitty places? We sure do. But you also develop relationships that you can never break those bonds for the rest of your life.
That's right. I think we used to call it hardships create, the strongest friendships. When you go through that whole cycle of hardship and you're putting your life in somebody else's hands and their life is in yours, like literally, on the battlefield. And like, that the way that you maneuver your vehicle, the way that you shoot your machine gun at certain intended targets, looking around and true story, when I was engaging tank targets with my turret, my crewman, who was a young Marine, he only had 2 years in the Marine Corps, he looked off to his left like this, and he's like, Staff Sergeant Chabot, there's some guys over there in black robes that got RPKs and they're firing at us. I was like, oh, okay, blip, traversed, can you move the vehicle, please, towards them? And then, boom, mowed them down with 50 caliber machine gun. when you have those types of experiences, when I'm up there damn near by myself with going against tanks, which is a really bad deal for me because I have machine guns and they have, armor piercing rounds. To have overhead aircraft come in with tow missiles, to have a different section come up, to have our own tank section come up and then provide more fire. That's what builds that bond, those things. It also builds the bond of when somebody is wounded and you're over there providing care for them and everybody sees, that unfold. It just resonates and it's impactful. It just has so much feeling and emotion on you. And those guys that I was in the most heaviest combat with, I still talk to all of them today, all of them. And they still say thank you. And I say thank you to them. And, hey, we're glad we were out there with you. I'm like, no, man, I stood in your shoulders. Shit. You guys were the ones, out there doing God's work too, man. You guys were phenomenal. But you can't replicate it nowhere. But I would just say, like, it's an all volunteer force. Don't be scared of it. If you look in history books, it happens, every 20 to 30 years. It sort of becomes part of the deal. I wish we could break that cycle. Maybe we can in the future. I don't know. But, to me, you got to be realistic about things too, Mike. Sure, we lost a lot of people in Iraq and Afghanistan during my time in the GWAT era. We sure did. But we've lost a lot more people in America at a higher percentage doing other things than we did over there. Murder, in the streets of, our urban cities, you would have a better chance of probably getting shot and killed in Chicago than you would have at peak Iraq when we have tens of thousands of troops rotating in and out of there.
Man, that's a great example. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but yeah, all the kids that are dying of drug overdoses and like you said, the violence of firearms throughout the U.S. I didn't even think about comparing those two things.
The other thing is, like, I'll just say this real quick, is that when you said how do you explain it to young people? Mm-hmm. My experience, before the Marine Corps and after the Marine Corps, I've been retired 6 years now and 17 before that. So those 23 years that I've been exposed to civilian life, nobody looks after you the way that people in uniform look after you and the way you look after each other. Yeah. Nobody.
When you were sharing that story about you guys only have a 50 cal, which is an impressive weapon, but you're going up against tanks that have much larger munitions that are going after you, and you're depending upon that air power above you. I mean, I'm already
hands down, brother.
I'm already getting scared, sweating, thinking about what you're describing. What did you learn about fear that only experience can teach?
And I also, before I answer your question, Mike, sort of thank you guys for the medevacs too. Not just the air support, but also for all the medevacs that you guys flew and all the supplies that you guys fly, all over the battlefield to different, places. I've never been that dude to like shit on air wing guys ever. Very, very important part of the Marine Air Ground Task Force. Very important.
I always think about this young man. We did a medevac out of Iraq, and I'm not sure if he was Army Marines. I don't know, because he was, bandaged and they're bringing the litters on board the C-17. And I was just looking at this young boy who had a bunch of shrapnel burns on his face. And I just thought to myself, is he married? Does he have a mom and dad? And I didn't even know this kid, but it just reminded me the human element of what we're doing. And so thank you for appreciating the medevac guys, because there are times that we do the medevac in the C-17 and, seeing those guys and gals in the back going through what they're going through. My heart goes out to them.
Yeah, no doubt. You asked me a question before about like a fear, and kind of like how all this chaos is going on around you. You got machine gun fire, you got people running around, you got, at least during then, it was kind of like mount condition. It was a very urban place that we were at. I was in Al-Nazariyah, Iraq, city of 350,000 people, tight streets, tall buildings, all this stuff, and just so much confusion and chaos. You're trying to listen to your radio at the same time. But what I imparted upon my guys and anybody that I rubbed elbows with over there, people would get really, really excited. And I would just look at them and say, hey, man, look, calmness under chaos. It's going to be chaotic. It is chaotic. Be calm. Be as calm as you can on the radio. Be as calm as you can when you're addressing people. I yelled a few times trying to get fire on targets, of course. Aggressive with my crewmen saying, hey, our whole port side is exposed. I need you to move up 10 damn feet and take defilade. Yes, staffs aren't do that, right? But most time, calm. Very, very calm. I had a Marine gunner, the battalion gunner, who's an infantry weapons expert, come up to me, and we were I say bivouac. We just went through some nasty firefights. We just thermited a tank because it got stuck in a big sewage plant. Us and the infantry are clearing the whole east side of the city of Al-Nazariya on foot. I'm watching them do it. I'm in a turret, pistol drawn. My crewman's got his rifle. He's trying to drive at the same time. And we finally got to a place where it was somewhat quiet. And that gunner ran up to me and he's like, hey, I need you to take you and your section. You see that burning vehicle over there? And all I could see was just a bunch of black smoke. He said, I need you to go over there and go rescue whoever is alive in there, go retrieve whoever is deceased, and go to the other side of the bridge, boot, scoot, buggy. I said, hey, no problem, sir. Lowered everybody up, pulled all my guys in. I said, hey, listen, I don't know what this is going to look like, but calm, right? I need everybody to be in control. We're going to go up there. If it's a friggin' hot mess and, and his blood and guts and stuff, I need you guys calm. Everybody talking, calm. We went up there, bivouacked the vehicles. There was one deceased Marine. My crewman went in there and grabbed him. He handed him up to me. I placed him on top of my vehicle. There were some other guys over there that had equipment. We had to zero out all the radios and stuff. There was some deceased Iraqis, some kids friggin' wounded on the side. So calm. Everybody calm. Okay. Everything's done. Load up, roll up ramps. Let's go. Went over the other side, prepared medevacs and stuff. And that's just that's the best way I can explain kind of how I dealt and how I imparted, dealing with chaos with my people.
My fearful moments pale in comparison to yours, so I won't even bother with that. But what I think about from a fear perspective and how I try to translate this to the folks that haven't experienced the level of fear that you have is, let's just take general life, for example. How many folks are fearful of guest speaking, right? Public speaking.
Yeah.
How many people are fearful of, using a public restroom? I know that sounds silly, but my point being is that when you get out of that comfort zone and you give that speech after speech after speech and go through that communications class or whatever, you get over those fears. Right now, everybody is so fearful of anything that makes them uncomfortable. They don't grow. And so,
that's a great point.
I mean, my goodness, with you going through that and telling your guys, be calm, because screaming, panicking, clogging up the radio with chaos, you're not helping anything. And to remain calm, man, I'm sure that your team definitely looked up to you. You were quite the mentor to them.
I hope so. So normally you get your report cards, as you continue living your life in uniform and out of uniform. And when most of your people are still talking to you and, and they still reach out to you and you reach out to them, you got a pretty good report card. I didn't say that my men liked everything that I did, particularly I was really hard on them during the training times. There's some times where one of my crewmen, I had to get a little physical with him and because he made a big friggin' mistake, did something really, really stupid. So I wouldn't say they appreciate all of it, but I would say all encompassing, we had great relationships, and I'm glad to have done it with them. I'm so great. As grateful as they may be for me, I am even more grateful, for them, because not that I was old, but I mean, I had 10 and a half years in the Marine Corps. I'm an E6. I had already done, Marine Expeditionary Units. I had trained, a lot over that time. I had some fantastic mentors. But imagine being in that environment, when you're 20, 21, and 22 years old, and you don't have that experience like I do. That's got to be very, very frightening. But I've always been more comfortable like in that. And this isn't odd, because I've talked to a lot of people and they feel the same way, like going to combat and stuff. Like, I felt very comfortable doing it and very comfortable in that chaos, compared to, say, like, if you ask me to jump out of an airplane, I'll be like, oh, hell no, I ain't jumping out of no damn airplane. There's other things I'm a hell of a lot more frightened about, than that, like being underwater for too long, shit like that.
You mentioned scorecards, grade sheets, or whatever.
Yeah.
I retired 2 years ago. I'll tell you what, there's times where I get frustrated. I'll see a job that I think, man, I am made for that job. I want to interview for that job.
Sure.
And I have never been hired from any job that I actually applied for. Every job that I've worked in my life is because somebody hand selected me for that job, right? So this whole HR process of going through the civilian world and going after these jobs, I came home one day and I was so frustrated, and I said, I wish the application process was, I will give you a list of every person I have ever worked with in the military. You can call any one of them, pick 3, and I am 100% confident that you will hire me based on their feedback. No resume, no interview, just go talk to the people that I've worked with in the past, and you will know why you want me on your team. But I don't know. It's a tough egg to crack to explain to industry what you're capable of.
Such an important topic, right? So let's talk about first thing, because I know we're going to talk about the other part too, about transition, which is something very valuable, and I hope will benefit your listeners. First thing is that when you talk about messaging to youth, I had a kid come by my garage maybe about 6 months ago. My garage is like I call it the cigar and bourbon center of excellence. We can talk about anything, right? This young man comes over, his mom was visiting with my wife and stuff. And he's like, hey, Mr. Mark, I heard, you're in the Marine Corps. I was like, yeah. He said, how long did you do? I gave him the whole gamut and stuff. He's like, yeah, I was thinking about, joining, the Air Force, tangible skills. I thought about joining the Navy for these tangible skills. Good on you, man. Like, all I'll say is that I believe that just as important as a tangible skill that you will get in the military, what is equally as important is the intangibles that you do.
Amen,
brother. This now, 2 years now, you've been doing it, 6 years. I've been doing it, not wearing a uniform, and the value of having somebody who can be on time, meet deadlines, meet timelines. You ask them for something, they're creative with it, and they can take, you ask them for like the minimum, and they deliver, something that is above and beyond, because that's what they used to do when they have a uniform on. Those things are so important. So if any youngsters out there happen to stumble across this, think about what you're passionate about more so than the tangible skill, because all the other things are going to work out for you. I'm like, me too. Like, when I had 20 years and I thought about retiring, I'm like, what do I know? Like, okay, I know a little bit of leadership. I know machine guns. I know amphibious tractors. I can turn wrenches a little bit. So-and-so, is an IT friggin' person. This person over here is an HR friggin' person. This guy's done logistics, man. I'm way behind. I ain't gonna be, and that could be no further from the truth. That's a bold-faced lie, man. It's not true. Because the intangibles that you build in yourself, those sets and reps that you get all that time, in the military, regardless of what skill that you have, will be valuable, and it'll pay dividends on the other end. The same shit I did when I was a sergeant major in the Marine Corps, half of what I do now is that same thing that I was doing then. Walking around, talking to people, building proposals, network, right? Like networking with people, making people feel comfortable with what it is that you do, right? Solving problems. That's what I do for a living now.
You talk about those intangibles. My neighbor works for one of the 3-letter agencies, and he found out that I was getting ready to retire, and he came over and he said, hey man, I think you should come work with us. And I said, we're neighbors, we're friends. You don't really know that much about me. What makes you think that I would be a valuable teammate, if you will, to your agency? He said, because you have the nicest yard in the neighborhood. And I said, that's what you're judging it on? And he said, anybody that's that meticulous and cares that much about their property is somebody that I want on my team. So once again, it's not the resume. It's like you said, it's the intangibles. I thought, holy cow, I'm getting a job offer because I mow my lawn.
Yeah. And the other part of it, that I just wanted to bring up with you is that it's very daunting when you're going to take a uniform after wearing it for a long time. But the same success that you had, you wouldn't be, you're obviously successful if you wore a uniform for 20 plus years.
Mm.
You should have the same amount of confidence as you're walking out the door. I didn't say arrogance. I didn't say be an egomaniac. I said you should have a high degree of confidence in it. But your network is your currency. To your point earlier about resumes and stuff and just applying to things, that is not the way. I think that the last statistic I read is only like 14% of people get hired that way. Almost everybody else gets hired in through a bridge. So
Yeah.
you get bridged in somehow.
And now it's just becoming a data mining thing, right? So they throw out these job opportunities just to see how many resumes they get to figure out what's out there with no plans of actually hiring anybody. It's quite frustrating. I didn't mean to go down that path.
No, it's okay. No funding available neither. A lot of these recs they put out, they don't even have funding for it.
Yeah, so I've struggled with some of that as well. I mean, I made it to the final interview process for one company that I was really excited about, and then come to find out that the company was so disorganized that they had actually hired somebody for that job the week prior. So the job didn't even exist. And I threw my hands up. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. So you retired in 2020, you said, right?
2020. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yep. So after those 27 years, what was harder than expected about taking that uniform off?
It was the camaraderie that I missed the most. I didn't miss the sets and reps of being a sergeant major and the stress of being a sergeant major. But when at first it's very exciting. It's like the first few weeks, you don't have a government phone no more. Everything's kind of quiet. You're focusing on, your family. I'm blessed enough, to still have the same, my family intact, which is huge. Not everybody can say that, unfortunately. I missed the people big time, like a lot. I was a pretty important dude in the Marine Corps. I'm not saying that with arrogance. I'm just saying
No.
my name is out in front of a unit along with the commanding officers. I'm the highest, most senior enlisted guy in a unit. And a lot of people look to you for a lot of things, whether it's solving a problem for them, helping them through a situation, figuring out a way, for them to improve their career. They ran into some turbulence and now, they need some options, to exercise some rights, whatever it is. I did all that stuff. And all of a sudden, nobody's leaning on you anymore. It can get pretty lonely.
You mentioned
I struggled.
You mentioned midway through your career that, the defense contractors were after you because of your skill set and how you could be that subject matter expert on whatever the next weapon system that they were trying to develop. Well, here we are, 27 years later, and you are that liaison guy for the Marine Corps. Can you tell us a little bit what you're doing now for the Marines?
Sure. When I retired, a year before you retire, you get a LinkedIn premium account. You don't have to get it, but it's there available to you. So I signed up for a LinkedIn premium account, built a profile and stuff. Somebody helped me with that. And then all of a sudden algorithms happen and people you served with and stuff to start populating. So one of my old company commanders, I served with her for only 4 months, but we had an incredible relationship. She was a reservist, so she's out in the industry. I saw her job title change from housewife to now she works for this company. And I'm a year away from retirement. I just sent her a message and said, "Hey, ma'am, it's been a while." I said, "What are you doing for work?" And to my point earlier, network is your currency. That is how you are going to make sure that you're taken care of, is by building your network and keeping in touch with the right people. She replied back to me within 30 seconds. She's like, "Oh my God, Mark, are you retiring? You'd be a perfect fit for our team." I said, "Actually, ma'am, I am retired. I wasn't trying the job prospect you, but I'd love to hear what you have to say." So she started working on her end to get me bridged in as a defense contractor. Everything that she said was going to happen happened. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carey. I love you for that. For you looking out for me. And she, eventually got me moved over to the government side as well, because she left and went to a different organization. So I was able to backfill her, and now I'm a federal worker. What I do now is I work for a Naval Surface Warfare Center, and I'm a liaison guy. So basically, I'm out there embedded in the National Capital Region, trying to help sponsors, Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, Marine Corps Systems Command, Combat Development Integration, listen to their experiments that they're doing and seeing how our team of experienced veterans, retirees, and different skill sets. We got guys that are logisticians, retired Marine gunners, so they understand, like how to operationalize things, weapon systems. You got guys like me, who kind of jack of a lot of trades, but not really a master of any. But I can help you, solve your operational problems, because scientists are really smart, engineers are really smart. A lot of times they don't understand how to take their system and be like, well, I want to take this down to Quantico and I want people to come see it. Well, we can probably help you with that, because all of us are retired Marines with huge networks. We're tied in with large agencies where we can advertise for you. We can get people to come see it, uniformed and civilians to come look at it. And by the way, we also have the skill set to where we can take it and say, hey, you need this much, airspace, to fly this UAS. You need this much distance, to shoot that laser. You need this kind of operating box to drive your amphibious reconnaissance vehicle. We need to dig in all these mines so, your sensor that goes across, can detect it, and you can create a combat operating picture, inside a COC. And we do all those things for our sponsors. So it's a really cool job. I working for the government kind of sucks sometimes because you work for the government. However, I probably have one of the coolest government jobs that you could have.
Well, we have very similar roles, but mine's on the academia side. So at George Mason University, I feel like I'm a small venture capitalist that's out there finding these businesses that want to partner with academia. And then I'm the guy that's not only finding the right fit between the university and the small business, but how do you explain it in a way that the Pentagon understands, or how do you explain it in a way that Capitol Hill understands that, hey, this is the direction we're going. So, for the last couple of years at George Mason, mostly it's been talking about AI and machine learning. And, when you go to Capitol Hill, they don't really understand that stuff. So you have to figure out ways to share those vignettes, those stories in a way that lets them understand, oh my goodness, this really is important as that direction goes. So yeah, I feel like we have very similar roles, but I'm on the university side and you're on the government side, which leads me to my next question is, where in this path did you decide that you were going to start running this podcast?
Yeah, when I was talking to you earlier about the kind of gaps and seams of, how I was feeling as far as missing the community, missing the guys, and just feeling like, man, like I need to be doing something else besides, okay, I got a good job. I'm going to work. I'm coming home. I got tons of time with my wife and my son, which is most time I've ever had with them. But I felt like I just needed to do more. And one of the things that I rarely say I was good at anything, because I'm just not built that way to like brag on myself. But I do think that I was very good at talking to my people and having meaningful conversations with them, and getting through to them and getting them to understand things a little bit better, explaining the why. If you got a problem, that's the most important thing in my day, is to try to help you. Even if it's just being a shoulder, a hand in your shoulder and letting you vent today, I'm good with it. I can live with that. So I said, well, what better way to close the distance with, with Marines, with people, and kind of giving back, some nuggets that I have to give, but finding, more importantly, guys like you who have so much to offer. And we just have a discussion, on camera. My old company commander, Eric Martindale, was my first guest. Phenomenal dude. But he used to say all the time when we was in Afghanistan together, there was a few times where we could have a break and kick our feet up and have a cigar. We smoked cigars together. And he'd be like, First Sergeant, if we could ever just, why can't there just be video cameras of us just, when we talk, we record it, that way we can, however many years ahead, we can watch it, we could publish it, on YouTube or whatever. I said, man, wouldn't that be something? And that always resonated with me. I'm like, man, if we can take these memories, and capture them on camera, and somebody learns something from it, or they get something to help make their life a little bit better, then I'm all for it. That's why I appreciate what you do, because there's enough people out there that are doing drama, divisive things, political opinions, picking fights with each other, different communities. You got guys that were friends in military. They take the uniform off and now they hate each other because of podcasts, right? Because of this person said this or that. I think what we do is a very valuable service. So it may not get the same clicks, views, and likes. It may not be everybody's taste. When I lay my head down at night, I feel pretty good knowing that, you know, I'm doing this for good nature and not any other reason than that.
Boy, you know, you hit it right on the head. The algorithms are built to focus on the negative stuff, right? Because that keeps you inside that platform for longer. So these positive messages that we share, they don't get the footprint that they deserve. But I'm completely fine with that because this allows me to meet guys like you. And so when I run into young folks that are lost, are looking for direction, I know so many great soldiers, sailors, you know, airmen out there that I can say, hey, you can go talk to Mark. He had a very similar background to you. Or, hey, you can go talk to this other individual because, you know, they flew this airplane and I know that's what you want to fly. So let's meet you guys up. And that network, it just continues to build. So I'm a photographer as well. I can't remember if I shared that with you or not.
Yeah,
but
I do remember that.
Yeah, so just michaelcomoros.com, real simple. But that is my way to stay connected to the airmen. I'm shooting promotion ceremonies, retirement ceremonies, and that allows me to stay connected to that community and see that next generation go through the process. And people ask me all the time, why do you do this? There's no money in it. I said, you don't understand. I said, yeah, this podcast and this photography stuff is like a bleeding red hole in my pocket. You might as well light the money on fire. But I said, at the same time, it allows me to continue to make a difference. And
Absolutely.
Once people realize that you're genuine, they start coming out of the woodwork. I mean, my goodness, my email is just starting to blow up with all these folks that want to be interviewed, not because there's an agenda, but because they want to share that story. So hopefully our hour-long conversation here, there's a 45-second snippet that finds its way to some young kid that's looking for a path that is just not in his wheelhouse. So that's why I love it.
No, well said, no doubt.
So from your time of, you know, interviewing a lot of folks and being in front of the camera, what makes someone a good storyteller?
And usually it's animation. Some folks just they just have like that. I don't know, like when was that Good Will Hunting, when Beethoven, you know, looks at a piano, he could just play it, right? He's like, I don't know, I could just play, as far as him solving, you know, mathematical equations. Some people just have that gift. They have that animation to just make it very relatable. They have these witty, you know, answers. They get those funny kind of sound bites, the random, like, you know, funny shit that they say. That's the people I think that are why they tell really good stories. But then there's the other side, right? I think the other side is you don't have to be the best storyteller. You don't even have to be the most comfortable. I think genuinity goes a long way in when you're on the other side of a microphone. If you're just being genuine and being open about stuff, there's like, it's tough because once you do this, it's out there and it's out. The internet is undefeated and it's out there for life. You know, and somebody can come for you for something that you said. They recall things a little bit differently. There's a lot of, you know, blowback that can come from it. However, I found just being genuine and transparent and being okay with like just saying how it is. Like I told you earlier, like I fucking missed the Marines big time. And like I missed, you know, the being a sergeant major and stuff. There's a lot of people out there that keep their guard up and they won't be genuine like that. And they won't say things, you know, that are on their heart. You know, it's like this got to be the bumper sticker, you know, all the time, you know, don't show, you know, any emotion, you know, any weakness. Like be relatable, dude.
I got attacked for that all the time as a senior leader. I was on social media, not because I liked it. I did not. I was not a fan of social media. One particular job I had in my career, you were on the down low. You didn't talk about what you did. You just went to work. So we didn't have any of that stuff. But so it was kind of forced upon me. And then it became my tool to stay connected to the airmen, right? Because the airmen are all about the social media stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so some of the senior leaders that I would work with, or the folks that I worked for, they're like, "Oh, you got to get off that stuff. That's, it's so bad." And I said, I think you're missing the point. I think even on my Facebook page, it says, if you're not interested in pictures of my family, my dog, or airmen that inspire me, then my page is not for you. I'm not putting the confrontational things on there when I was in uniform. And that allows airmen to reach out to me that never would. So I had been out of my last assignment. I'd been out for a few years, and somebody sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Hey, Airman Snuffy, Airman so-and-so is going through a rough time. Can you give her a call?" And so I would have never known that if it wasn't for social media. So if you handle it responsibly, I think it's a really good piece of the tools in your tool belt when you're dealing with young folks. But that's just my
No, you're right about that. It's like Eric Clapton said, it's in the way that you use it. So you can use social media in the way like that you and I are connected, right? In that manner, or you can use it, to be petty, or you can use it, just to do something, stupid, just to do clickbait stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm not hating on it. If that's what you want to do and it makes you happy, hey, go ahead and do it. I mean, you probably make a lot more money than I do at it, but I don't value money like that. So I would never sell my soul for money.
Yeah, I wrote an article a few months ago about the war in Iran and the choke point of Hormuz, and people just came out of the woodwork telling me that, whatever, I'm a communist, I'm an idiot. What do I know? I was like, what do you mean, what do I know? I've been to Iraq, I've been to Afghanistan. I know what air power does and what air power can and cannot do. And my goodness, the hate comes out, but here we are 5 months into this, and the thing I wrote 5 months ago is still correct. So go figure. But during your time with all these interviews, is there a particular episode that changed you as a host?
Yeah, I was never comfortable like in the spotlight. I was a very good supporting player on any command team. Don't get me wrong. If it's time to go out there, rally the troops, and get them fired up, I could do that stuff pretty well. But whenever it comes to me, like the focus is on me and solely on me. I've never been entirely comfortable with that. So I just said, I'm going to draw a line in the sand. Wrote on, I got one of those Hearth calendars, electronic ones. It populated through your iPhone. I said, it was like December 28th of like 2023. I said, I will publish a video today to YouTube. And I also put in there in the notes section, even if it sucks. So that's what I did. I made my first video and I published it to my YouTube, and it wasn't a great video, but I got a lot of support on it because a lot of people, I think, think I'm an all right dude. And then just kind of went from there. So you get every set and rep, you get a little bit more comfortable. But the whole part about Genuinity, I felt like I was still holding back a lot. But then I brought on one of my friends, Sergeant Major Justin Hugh. He's a Navy Cross recipient. Not only is he one of my mentors, he's one of my really, really close friends. We're in the same battle together in Al-Nazariya. And him and I did the 20-year, we did a 20-year Al-Nazariya like remembrance podcast where him and I kind of walked through the battle together. His purview, my purview. And I tell you, man, I just started saying what was on my heart, just, had, real emotions. It wasn't a comfortable podcast at all. But I think that it went really, really well. And I felt like I felt better about things after that. He's been talking about this stuff for years. He's very comfortable in that light. But that episode was published, by Soldier of Fortune in their fire pit section. And it got a lot of shares around, a lot of views, and I got a lot of great feedback on that, saying like, Mark, that's the dude that you need to be, like with all your episodes. You need to be that guy. Stop holding back. Just let it freaking go. Say it. So that was like a changing point for me as far as podcasting.
My wife says the same thing. She says you come across so robotic when that camera is rolling, and so I'm getting better. I'm still not great at it. I don't like the camera being on me as a photographer. I like being behind the camera, capturing those emotional moments. I don't like to be the subject that's in those moments. So it's still a struggle for me, but you're absolutely right. Once you have that passion, you got to let it go. You just got to let it go. And once again, like I said, that the article I wrote about Hormuz, that was me letting it go. Like, okay, I'm not in uniform now. I can express my opinion on what is, transpiring at this time. And boy, did I get a lot of hate mail for that. But anyway, so Mark, how can our listeners support your mission in a meaningful way?
Hey, I would love for you guys to come check out, my podcast. We welcome, all good people from all walks of life. I once wanted to say that it's not extremely niche oriented. Sure, I do a lot of veterans things on there, but I got family stuff on there, published stuff, my son's achievements, gun videos, my passion. I got a love for firearms. So, I would say, like, if you think I'm an all right dude, you may enjoy my channel. If you're looking for something specifically niche related, it may not be the right place for you. But hey, I would love for you to come check it out. So I'm on YouTube, obviously. And it's called The Left. If you type in the search bar, it's called The Left, Right, Left Podcast. And you can't miss it. I think it's number 2 on the drop down menu. So I got over 10,000 subscribers now.
Attaboy.
I didn't think I'd ever have 100. Not that subscribers means everything, people coming, the feedback is more important to me than the subscribers. But however, it is, a lot of people are passing it around, and I would love, for you guys to check it out.
Awesome, brother. I love it. So let me do a little lightning round with you. How's that sound?
Yeah, sure, man. Let's go.
Best advice you ever ignored?
Oh, man. Wow. I'm trying to think of something my wife would say to me, right? You're not listening to me. And that's it. You're not listening to me, because there's an element of truth in that. Only half-ass listening, right? So like when somebody's talking to you and stuff, like, you should really try to listen. You don't, and definitely, like, if you're in charge of anything, you don't want to have a reputation of being like a bad listener, because that'll come across like you don't care. And that's a really bad look.
Hardest rank to hold well?
Oh, first sergeant. For being a Marine, first sergeant. Oh man, that's a tough one, bro.
Best smell or sound from your AAV days?
Oh, definitely the smell of the exhaust fumes.
One book, song, or phrase that gets you moving?
Man, you can crank up a 5-Finger Death Punch. What is that? Hard for me.
Hard for you.
Hard to see. Hard to see by 5-Finger Death Punch. You put that on, me and my son go crazy.
I'm writing a book right now, and one of the songs I mentioned in the book is "Drowning Pool, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor." So I feel you.
Iraq song, man.
I feel you. I feel you on the 5-Finger Death Punch.
Yeah. One
person you wish more people knew about?
Man, my brother. My older brother is such a good dude, man. I know lightning round. I'm just giving you a little bit of context of why I say that. He's the dude who's like lives in New Hampshire and nobody knows who he is, but he's very witty. He's very smart, very caring, and he's a great American. That dude knows more about guns and friggin' like firefights, because he was in the Army. He knows a lot of shit, man.
New Hampshire, I've been to Pease Air Force Base, and right next to Pease Air Force Base is Sig Sauer. So yeah, New Hampshire, you guys, he's in good company if he's into his guns, because Sig Sauer is right up there.
I also wish more people knew Staff Sergeant Roger Keith.
Roger Keith.
Yep, that was my dude, man.
So let me finish you with this one. Finish this sentence. Service is
rewarding. Very rewarding. We didn't even get into benefits, but just think about, and I try to tell the people that are already in, because it's easy to kind of have that fuck the suck attitude. Like, I want to get out. Like, There seems to be like this thing. But the benefits of you staying in are very well worth your time. Unless you're just not into it, you're not passionate about it anymore, then you should do the right thing and you should exit, because your people deserve better and your service deserves the best version of you. However, when I tell people what I pay for healthcare, they're like, oh my God, my buddy's a doctor. He pays like $3,000, a year, like health. I'm sorry, like $3,000 a month for like him and his 4 kids. $3,000 a month. When I told him I pay $768 a year, he's like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Hey man, it wasn't easy, but it was worth it."
Mark, thank you for bringing that up, because you're exactly right. And I talk about this all the time with folks. I said, look, there are certain benefits that you get if you stick it out and retire that, you look at it and you said, I could have made so much more money if I went to that defense contractor. Yes, you absolutely could have. But the number one reason for bankruptcy in the United States is medical care.
Yeah.
So being able to have that level of medical care at the cost that it is for us, my goodness, like you said, this doctor is spending $3,000 a month on healthcare. It's overwhelming. And it's one of those benefits that when I hit about year 12 or 13, I realized, oh man, 8 more years and I will be able to not worry about ever having to declare bankruptcy because of a medical care cost.
Yeah. And I don't think about it like this too, Mike. And listen to guys, we don't make a ton of money in retirement, but my retirement that I get every month is about what the median income is in the county I live in. So like I'm so far ahead of just everybody else because of service, and it's not always about, money, but it's nice to walk out the door and have a small stipend for the rest of your life, doing something that you enjoyed doing. Win-win. That's just winning.
I call it sleep insurance, right? My healthcare is covered. I have that check of the month club that allows my family to still be supported as I continue down this path of trying to be an entrepreneur and not work in a cubicle, right? So I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you. I wouldn't be able to continue to be out there seeking that perfect job that fits my personality. Because if we didn't have those benefits, we would have to take the first job that came about as soon as we retired. So I'm thankful for those benefits. And thank you for reminding me to talk about that, because that is one thing that you just don't see on the paycheck while you're in service. You're like, my friends are making 25% or 50% more than I am. Yeah, but they're also not paying $3,000 a month 30 years from now for health insurance. So
yeah. Now through education, that you get no student debt. I got a bachelor's degree. The only thing I paid for was books. And I didn't go to I'm sorry, I paid a little bit more because I went to a different school. But like most times, tuition assistance while you're on active duty will pay for you to go to school. I mean, officers, you guys get paid to get master's degrees if you stay in long enough.
That was the one. I had 2 goals for my entire military career, because when I was a second lieutenant, Colonel Hollywood was my squadron commander, and he was such an awesome guy. So I said, I want to be a squadron commander someday because I want to be like Colonel Hollywood. And the other thing I said to myself is I want to be able to go to school for free and get paid doing it. And so I was fortunate enough to go to Eisenhower, which is a school down here in DC at Fort McNair. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm literally sitting in class learning about economics and acquisitions and how Fortune 500 companies work with the Department of Defense. I'm getting paid to learn. This is truly a dream come true.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you so much.
I think we did it. I think we met, your intention of giving something, relatable for people to think about service and in a positive manner. Again, I didn't want to bullshit anybody. It ain't easy.